Alrighty, we are back with your favorite podcast of the week. This is Location Weekly, and it's episode number 483. We are recording live on September the 22nd. Yes, it is officially fall here in North America. And yeah, it's getting a bit cooler. It's still sunny here in Toronto, but it's getting colder for sure. How about Atlanta? What's going on down there?
We've had sweater weather like the past 3 days, and it's been beautiful and sunny. It's like great to run in. My kids had tennis last night, so it was like perfect. It's been really nice, but I think the heat's gonna come back on for a little bit.
Okay.
I mean, in Atlanta, that's probably what's going to happen, at least for a little bit longer. But yeah, it's been really, really nice. And I think the rain has passed with the hurricane kind of aftermath that we were getting. So it's good, but
Well,
it's
it's
kind
like
of,
I'm guessing there's going to still be a few more tropical storms or hurricanes coming. I don't know. It looks like it.
I mean, I'm sure it's September. That's what happens. So probably so. But it's just odd to like have this change of weather. I don't know, after such like a non-exciting summer.
And are you excited about, we're a week away from the end of the regular baseball season, playoffs are around the corner. Is that exciting?
I Yeah, I am. And you know what my husband reminded me of last night is that the last time there was an interruption to the season, the Braves won it all. With this, I think it was the strike and back in '95. So
We don't talk
very
about
interesting.
that here in Canada because that's the year that the Montreal Expos should have won the World Series, and we're no longer after that.
Well, you know, the Braves were longer, but have
Yeah, well,
not.
they're now the Washington Nationals, so there you go. But anyhow,
But
uh,
the Braves are having like this crazy, amazing season. So in spite of the weirdness of what baseball is, like they've had like the most high scoring games ever. A lot of their players are having, I think they've got three of the top five um, OPS percentage players on the team. So I was reading that this morning. I'm like, that's pretty impressive.
that's good. That's good. Well, I mean, up here, the thing is like our Toronto Blue Jays weren't expected to be in the playoffs, and it looks like they will make the playoffs now. So you never know; anything can happen. So at least there's something to watch this fall and be
That's
entertained by.
right.
So, alrighty. Well, we have a good show for you. We have four stories we want to cover today, and as usual, I'll let Aubriana kick it off with one right from home.
Yeah, like super from home. So my company, Digital Envoy, Digital Element, has a new partnership that it announced from our global office. So 51 Degrees is a new partner. And if you're not familiar with them, they actually provide insights into online user preferences and device specific behavior. So they can do device type recognition, provide analytics all around that, and they enable companies to target advertising, tailor web content, all these personalization things that are super important in this day and age for contextual advertising. And they prevent fraud. They have some fraud prevention tools and techniques there as well. And they do this across all devices. So the partnership is going to allow 51 Degrees to have a localization component to all of this for their clients that they'll roll out. So this is through our Geo Imprint product, which is near and dear to my heart because this is one of my team's doings. And so I'm happy to see that this is still continuing to grow and new partnerships are being made off of this even years later. So yeah, this is, it's good to see how even in this day and age when location targeting is changing just a little bit and what that looks like is changing a little bit, there's still that context and people still want to personalize everything from offers to emails, and we'll talk about that with my other story today. But yeah, just shout out and congrats to my friend and colleague Charlie Johnson, who's our VP of UK and Ireland. So I know that she has been working on this partnership development for a long time, and so this should be a really good one. And I think 51 Degrees has like a ton of clients, so this should be a nice kind of a extra thing that they can do now, and not have to solicit additional services from other companies in order to do it. So very cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton to add to it. I mean, first of all, yeah, congrats to you guys. I think it's a great partnership, and to Charlie and the team. You guys have such good people over there in Europe. We've had, from the LBMA point of view, an opportunity to work with over the years, and Charlie's definitely, a big part of that. So, but yeah, I think the interesting thing for me in this story is, as I've watched the last sort of 18 to 24 months of our industry, and we've talked a lot about, sort of privacy discussions and kind of, changes to the availability of data for targeting and so on. It seems like almost the whole industry is kind of saying, okay, we give up, we're kind of, we understand where this is going. We have to kind of move in a different direction. So we're going to move to, more anonymous, audience-based, segment-based type of targeting. And then I look at a story like this and I go, oh, there's actually people still trying to do one-to-one personalized, targeted offers and things. So, it's good. It makes me smile because it's like, okay, not everybody's given up on this. Like there are companies out there like you guys, like 51 Degrees, that are trying to find new ways to go about it, different ways to go about it, given the limitations on mobile IDs and other things that are coming. So I'm excited by that. I'm encouraged by that. And I think it's good for our industry to kind of see these types of stories as well, not just the doom.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is really cool about this is that with the geo imprint product, it's actually like an opt-in product for the consumers. And so what typically happens is that, they would use something like an IP intelligence product to provide contextual targeting at a, very privacy sensitive high level, and then be able to get more granular as the consumer decides to share based upon whatever value proposition you might be able to give them from the former information. So, I think that being able to reach the consumers where and when they are contextually with what level of information you can gather and grasp at a privacy sensitive level, and then you continue to provide value to them is really like what, any relationship is. And so this, I think, is a perfect example of seeing that progress and sort of that natural progression of balancing privacy with the personalization. So it's cool.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So that's our first story. Let's move on to our second one now, which is really about a merger acquisition within our industry. Two companies that I have to say I wasn't super familiar with, but after doing a little bit of poking around, seems like they're doing some great work. So the first is a company called Stirista, Stirista, for those listening. And they've acquired another location data company called Nicasa. Both are U.S.-based companies. Stirista is based in San Antonio, Texas. Nicasa is in Washington, D.C. And so they're kind of combining, or Stirista is acquiring the assets and location engine technology from Nicasa, and kind of integrating into their main platform, which is called AdStir. And so this is all about allowing and enabling brands to run omni-channel campaigns and ultimately to measure the effectiveness. So Stirista has really been in that sort of campaign management and activation around location-based data and advertising, identity-driven campaigns. And Nicasa, really what they bring to the table is sort of the measurement aspect of that, the attribution aspect of that. And so kind of putting the two things together. So in some ways, on the surface, you could argue it's like a mini version of Foursquare acquiring Placed, and kind of putting those two things together in terms of the data and the attribution side. So again, I don't know a lot, completely honest here, about these two companies, but what it does say to me, which has been a common thread in the last year, is there's a lot of activity going on in our location-based industry right now in terms of consolidation, in terms of investments and acquisitions. Just a ton of activity, right? Last week we talked about, in-market acquiring Ninth Decimal. We've talked about Foursquare acquiring Factual and Placed before that. We've talked about, Place IQ acquiring Freckle IoT. So there's just a lot of activity going on across the board in our industry. Doing a little bit of digging into Starista, like it looks like they've got some pretty strong offerings in the education and healthcare and political side of use cases of this type of data. So, and obviously there's a major, political event happening in your country, with the upcoming federal election. And I'm sure, well, I know for a fact because I've fielded calls directly from New York Times and others about how location data is being used in campaigns and in political activities. So I think that as we move further along here, I think the name of the game, and I think the smartness of this acquisition is really about agencies, media buyers are no longer, it's no longer good enough to say, hey, yes, we can target, by geo and so on and deliver this, campaign to an audience that matches certain criteria. You have to have the attribution side. It has to be all together in one platform, and this seems to satisfy that. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the measurement is really important. I think that honestly, most people in the advertising space are likely thinking of measurement in a little different way now, where it's going to be probably just overall lift versus footfall attribution type of measurement. But for me, what stands out here is the continued trend, of course, of the consolidation in the location intelligence space. But also, what's interesting, like you mentioned before, is that I would say that it sounds like Starista's clients in the list of who they're working with tends to be a little bit different than the verticals that some of the other ones we've seen from acquisition perspective and consolidation perspective target. So not just a straight brand type of an offering, but something that you mentioned, like politics is a big one. And so, and in healthcare as well. So I think that those are both tricky things to really master. And there's still probably a good amount of opportunity there for these types of companies to either get into or expand and grow there. So that's interesting.
There you go. All right, on to our third story.
Yeah, so kind of staying with the whole like contextual idea and the targeting, but shifting to more of a brand and a consumer experience. This is a brand that I like. It's called Torrid, and they are a women's fashion retailer, and they had tried something new for them, and this was a personalized email with a local map that was based upon the user's location, the recipient's location, and just doing this approach for them tripled their click rate for this promotion, which is unheard of for email campaigns. And so I think this is very interesting use case of location, and I wanted to dig in more, but their email click-throughs rose from less than 5% to almost 15%, and they used a vendor called Live Clicker, and the technology is called Live Map. So it's an email personalization company, and so I'm really interested to kind of dig into what they offer as well, because I'm always interested in like how things work, because I'm just a curious person and I like to geek out a little bit. So I'm definitely going to dig into this because, we know that like text and email are just really great methods when they work, but the ability to sometimes personalize on the fly can be a little bit complicated. So, what would happen is customers who would open the emails would see a map, and it would include like real-time information in regards to the Torrid locations, the store hours, what kind of services they offer as their curbside pickup, or, the phone number, traffic patterns, all of those sorts of things, which is really cool. But, they're saying also that the increased location awareness could help lead to higher foot traffic in the store. We've seen a lot of decrease in foot traffic for, many retailers and service offerings. But, based on the pandemic, what I was reading, an interesting stat that Airship provided was that from February and March, about 23% of people who use retailer apps consented to share their location. So obviously that's a higher number, and it's a 31% gain from pre-pandemic levels around the world, which is just crazy, right? All of us need to now have location, like, can you deliver to me? Can you bring it out to me? Can you bring it to my house? All of those things that we are all of a sudden interested in sharing our location for. And they were saying that Also, grocery foot traffic has kind of started to level out as to what it was before everything happened with the pandemic, but there's still a lot of effect, especially I would say in more of like the consumer, goods like clothes. For me, it's really hard to even think about shopping for clothes at all, unless it's like, my kids need socks, because I'm like, I don't really go anywhere. I feel like I'm in yoga wear, and then I work out, and then I put my pajamas back on, and then I go back to yoga wear, or I throw on a button down for the podcast while so these are the ones that are a little more challenging. So I really like the way that they're thinking about using location in a real-time consumer fashion that just really provides a unique experience through a very well-established medium of email. So I think it's pretty cool. What do you think?
Yeah, I really like this. I think this is incredibly smart, and effective targeting. Obviously, it works. Going from 5 to 15% click-through rates on email is huge. Unheard of almost, as you say. And I think this is a great way for a brand to kind of really engage with people, especially when they're not going out. They're at home. They're getting emails, and kind of giving them, that the information that they need that's truly local, truly contextualized to where they are. As you were talking, and I was, I had read this story beforehand, I was thinking about, in a lot of ways, it's exactly the kind of stuff that we've been talking about with search and voice search and just general search on Google. You go and you search for things, and that sort of optimization of the results, that's localized, or even when you come to a brand online, from a search perspective, I'm talking about, and how companies like Radiace, for example, and others can create localized pages, for the individual stores, the individual locations that are nearby to you, so that you're not going to some general one. It's truly a local experience in that sense. And I think in a lot of ways, as I was thinking about this story, it's almost the same thing but delivered in email. And I think that it's incredibly valuable, to think about the power of what you can do with that technology. Email's not going anywhere. We all use it every day. And I think that, there's still yet ways to kind of take what, we all do every day in the world of location-based marketing and location targeting, to kind of continue to apply those principles and those technologies to every form of media, right? I harken back to when I started the LBMA, 11 years ago now, and we said, we defined that term location-based marketing as that intersection of people, places, and media. We were really clear from day one about, using the word media and not mobile, because we believed that it was location-based marketing can happen across any media, whether it be, mobile, out of home, radio, television, online, or email, or whatever it is. It can be all of it, right? And this story kind of shows that, right? Because it's not just about getting an ad on your phone when you walk by a store, that they know you're there. It can be anywhere. It could be in any medium that has the ability to access you and engage you in whatever place you're in. And that's what location-based marketing is, and that's what these guys are doing. And so I'm excited about it. I want to learn more about, what LiveClicker is doing, and how we might be able to, expose that to more and more of the membership of the LBMA. So, yeah, cool. All right, one final story for this week. FedEx, all during this whole COVID time, has been using some new technology, and I just wanted to kind of highlight that. So they are now doing real-time package tracking using a technology called SenseAware ID. And so it's a very lightweight, small device that they affix to shipments, and it transmits location data as to where the shipment is every 2 seconds. And it's really about optimizing and having real-time access to tracking and knowing where those packages are. So they were originally using this at the beginning of COVID to look at where the shipments were going for the tests. So when people would go to the COVID test centers, and they had to then send those the test samples to get to the labs to get tested, they were using FedEx to do that, and they were tracking using this SenseAware ID technology, where those test samples were going. Obviously, you don't want to be losing any of those. You need to know where they are. They're very important pieces of information that tie back to whether people have COVID or not. And now that they're getting ready to kind of use the same technology again to kind of look at where the vaccines, as those become available, are going to go, and potentially other packages too. Especially anything that's super highly sensitive or critical, to know where it is. And so the devices transmit, as I said, every 2 seconds using Bluetooth technology. It sends the signal to Wi-Fi access points or gateways within the FedEx Express network. And so theoretically, or not just theoretically, but actually, it's sending data up hundreds of times over the course of a shipment to know where it is. And that's in contrast to kind of normally where it's just, they say dozens of times. So like the magnitude of frequency of check-ins to know where a package is along its route, we're talking, 50, 100 times more, right? In some cases, in terms of knowing where something is. So, I think this is kind of just, where we need to be right now in terms of tracking technology and knowing where things are. And I expect we're going to have all of the industry from a logistics shipping perspective move in this direction. I know already, obviously, there's a lot of LTL and trucking companies that do tracking of vehicles and things like that. But, when it comes to packages, especially sensitive packages like vaccines or COVID test samples or these kinds of things, you really need to know where those things are and make sure they don't get lost or rerouted or, stuck somewhere along the way. So, I think this is great.
Yeah, I thought about this story. Actually, it's like yesterday or the day before I got a package. It was not a sensitive package. It was actually like something from Sephora. I had a gift card that I'd had for like 3 years and I finally used it. And so I was excited, but it was funny because like as soon as the package hit my doorstep, I happened to be walking by the front door and so at the same time I had my phone in my hand and like I got a notification through the Sephora app right away that my package had arrived. And I was just thinking about the seamlessness and like the, how immediate that happened. It was just, I don't even think that the driver was back in his truck and I already have this notification via the app that, my package had been delivered. And these are different systems that are even talking to each other. So we're, talking about going from third parties, to the consumer. And it's really amazing just the advancements that we're making in this type of systems that we have. And when it comes to more sensitive, things or more expensive things, you think of like fine art or things that might be getting shipped or moved around, that could be really valuable. So I think this is really cool. To see that they are able to do that. And maybe this is even something that could be helpful if packages get, lost or stolen along the way, finding out where they are.
Yeah, incredibly valuable. Well, that's it. That's our show for this week. 4 very interesting stories, a range of things in there. But, really it speaks to, I think this week's show, if I kind of sum it up, really speaks to kind of continued consolidation in our industry, continued innovation, despite COVID, kind of coming out where the technologies are finding ways to kind of evolve and mature and just adapt. Companies are finding ways to take these technologies that we've known about for a while, in most cases, and kind of either accelerate them to market or adapt them to the situation that we're all faced with. And so I think that's a really positive thing. So for our listeners and viewers out there, you've been partaking in episode number 483 of Location Weekly. We thank you for your time. Of course, we'll be back with another show next week, but if you have story ideas, if you have feedback, please reach out to us. If you're watching the video, contact information is at the end of the show. And if not, you can easily find us on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or wherever we're well found, either Aubriana at Digital Element, Digital Envoy, or anywhere on the web. She's easily found. And of course, I'm at the Location-Based Marketing Association. So we thank you. Have a great week, everybody. Talk to you soon.
Thanks. Bye.